Hello, and just a warm welcome to Stories of Resilience with Writing Relations. So this is a series where we meet with people from different walks of life who have shared their valuable experience, wisdom, and reflections on what work is needed to build a better path towards a heart-led radical social change. So my name is Miriam Sanawab, and I am the member of the West Hub of Writing Relations and coming from Winnipeg, Manitoba. So this year of 2023 is the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. However, we see that there's still many struggles that continue to confront our local and global communities. And while we have international human rights law and foundation to guide us, we have a long way to go to actualize these rights and bring peace to our communities and world. The rates of hate and intolerance are growing, and poverty is deepening, and Canadians only now beginning to reckon with our deep history of genocide. So in our commitment to advance human rights globally from December 1st to the 10th of 2023, the John Humphrey Center for Peace and Human Rights, in partnership with Writing Relations, will host Ignite Change, a global convention that will host a series of online and in-person events to bring together civil society, academics, and decision makers in dialogue, learning, and action on human rights. So these 10 days will profile and facilitate public discourse on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and its 75th anniversary, as well as strengthen collective action and commitment to advance human rights. So Writing Relations is a growing national network that strives to support and build capacity amongst adult educators and community organizers, provide space and resources for them to connect, reflect on, and organize for heart-led social change and to build a just Canada. So if you're interested in learning more, you can please check out our website at writingrelations.org. So today's guest is Mirtha Rivera. Mirtha Rivera was born in the capital city of Santiago, Chile, where a military coup overthrew the elected popular government in 1973. So she was active in the students' movement demanding free education, and she was also involved in a demonstration against the U.S. war in Vietnam. And she grew up learning dance and singing was an everyday activity. Her father was a singer. The politics were always an important conversation in her family. And also at the time of the 1960s, when the music in the radio station was from the United States in English, she joined a popular theater and a folk music and dance group in her neighborhood to reclaim her cultural roots. So Mirtha came to Saskatchewan as a political refugee with her husband and young son in November 1975. So the cold weather didn't freeze her creative spark, and she continued her work in the Chilean community, women's community, and arts community. So her heart is with the ones whose voices are not heard, the disabled, the houseless, the undocumented. She is a singer, musician, writer, political activist, animal lover, and mother of 2 grown sons. So she and her compañera began their relationship in 1989, lobbied for LGBT rights, including the right to marry, before 2005, and married in 2010. So Mirtha, I have a few questions for you to ask. And so the first question that we want to know is, how did you come into being a human rights defender?
Hi everybody. I'm here in Regina, so I'm not in Edmonton. I'm coming from the Treaty 4 territory, the land of the buffalo, the stolen land of the indigenous people here. So I have to recognize that to answer the question, I was thinking that I was born in Chile, and I was born into a family that my dad was a machinist and my mom was making dresses at home. She called herself a seamstress and she was quite good. So we didn't have enough of anything. We were really poor, even though I was the only child. So in Latin America, you have to get involved in defending your rights, in protecting yourself and protecting your family. And I saw since I was really young so much poverty. So people who didn't have enough to eat, we didn't have enough to eat sometimes. Going to school, it was a privilege for many. And even though there were people who, and Chile people really respect and value education, but it's really hard. It's not free. It is still not free. So I think that I don't know when I decided to fight for my rights and be with others who didn't have their right respected. I saw lots of violence. I saw lots of other things that I didn't like. And I was born in a family that a mixed race. So my mom was white and my dad was indigenous. So I grew up mostly with my grandmothers and my Indian grandmother. I always say that she was the biggest influence in my life. And I learned a lot of things that at the time I thought the woman was crazy, but I think that that's the one who taught me that my spirit was more important than all the other things. And that she always told me that nobody had the right to take things away from me or to tell me what to do. And I think I took it really seriously. So, like I said, I couldn't tell you when precisely. I think as soon as I could get out of the house or things like that or go to school, I wanted to be involved in asking, why is it that we have to pay for education? Why is it that we have to wear, when you go to school, you have to wear uniforms and they were really expensive. So, I mean, if you don't have it, you couldn't go to school. So I always ask those questions and I was considered a troublemaker. So I guess that's one of the names that I carry in my life. I'm a troublemaker because I ask questions. I want to know. I think that's what I can, well, as far as I can remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, even like with growing up and your time in Chile, can you share like a memorable story of your journey of defending human rights and what were the learnings about human rights?
I got involved when I was in school in a student moment that we were demonstrating on the streets, and in Santiago it's close to 4 million, 5 million people. So it's a big city. So we were on the streets. We were not afraid to go demonstrate against the government and demand our rights. I think when you're young, you have that energy. Like sometimes I look back and I go, oh, how did I do that? But I did. There are other things that I did in demonstrations and civil disobedience that most people look at me and they go, and you did what? Well, I have done many things because when people is deprived of food and their rights to education and their rights to housing, you have to fight for your life. So you do things that they need to be done. They're not legal according to the system. But then again, what I think is if you're fighting against the system, why should you respect their rules? And that's been my question all my life. Why should you go according to what they're doing? They will oppress you more and more. What I learned about human rights is that those are rights that there's a need for people to thrive in this world, to have those rights respected, and the right to be free to choose where you go, and all those things that some of us have it in our values and in our hearts. And when you face the other side, it's not a beautiful picture, because they wouldn't stop at anything to oppress you and repress you, so you don't get to make it clear what is that imbalance of power, because that's what it is. According to me, it's a big imbalance of power. So I learned that, yeah, we have human rights now. We can see that sometimes it's only take a stroke of a pen to lose those rights. And so it's a constant keeping your eyes on the ground, your feet on the ground, your eyes on the stars, then keep on going and keep on trying to make this world a better place for everybody.
Okay. So with your experience of student demonstrations and even just going to demonstrations in general, yeah, like what are the learnings that you think the younger generations of human rights defenders need to know and understand to be effective?
Going to demonstration, I had to learn a lot of skills. First of all, you need to know that you have to protect yourself and you have to protect the others that are with you. You have to know how to run really fast. And you have to have a way of having legal support, because they will put you in jail, and they will try to make you look like you were a criminal, like all the things that it made me think more and value more, that my thoughts were, I'm fighting for what is fair for me and for everybody, and yet I'm considered a criminal. So I learned that in order to keep my rights and to keep the human rights of everybody, we need to educate people. We need to learn what those rights are. And yeah, it's legislation, but if you don't test the legislation, it never comes in effect, because there's a difference. It can be written in paper, but when it comes to the practices, it's a total different thing. And they have the legislation, and governments takes forever. If not, I'm sure they tried to see if people forget, and they keep on doing what they do the best. They just oppress and take from people. Yeah.
Okay, so you spoke about like the imbalance of power between governments, and then like with your doing your protesting, yeah, like why then do you think it's important to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights?
I think it's very important though, because we need to celebrate our gains in the society. We have come a long way to what it was when I was really young, and way back then, we didn't have anything that we can say, there is a legislation, these are my rights, and human rights say. So we need never to forget that we have some gains, that we have gained ground, and that people are in a better position most of the time right now as they were before. I'm dating myself. I was born in 48, so I'm going to be 75 this year. And what I saw when I was growing up is nothing like this. Like there was no protection. There was nothing. Even when after the military coup, there was no records that I could or my family could access to find me or to see where I was, because for a while I was disappeared and I was in jail. I know that, and that was an experience that it's something that happened to me. It doesn't make me a victim, and I refuse to be a victim. And there are many people that are in that position right now, but they are now with the legislation. We can claim to that legislation and celebrate it and help them. And there's a lot more that we need to do.
Mhm. Yeah. Is there like a particular legislation that you feel proud of for standing up to, or that was kind of like a moment for you that you felt proud of?
I think that it was here in when I was in Canada, though, when we got the legislation to same gender marriage, we fought for that, and so we gained that right. And it was passed in I can't remember the date. I'm really bad with dates. My brain doesn't retain numbers for some reason, and I don't know why. But it was a big part of what we did as a group. It took many times to challenge the authorities in here. They wouldn't give us a permit to have a parade. They wouldn't give us a proclamation to celebrate Pride. And all of us in those days, we were afraid of losing our jobs if they found out that we were homosexuals. That was the word that it was on those years. Some of us have children, so we were afraid of losing the children. People wouldn't rent to you if they found out that you have a same-sex partner. And for men was really hard because they got the violent part from society attacking them and things like that. For some reason, we women didn't, but it was more kind of hidden and more. They didn't want to be that open, I guess, against us. But there was a lot that we could have lost, and I'm really proud though that with the group that we had, we gained that, and we have that, and I don't want it to lose it, because I see what's happening in United States by all that extreme right, that they want to make us again be invisible and disappear. And I don't think any one of us want to go back to the closet. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then, yeah. How, what do you feel needs to happen to right relations and build a just Canada?
That's a big question, though. I think that we need to start from the rights of the Indigenous people here in Canada. I think that we need to, they talk about reconciliation, but we need to have the truth, and they need to be accountable for that. They need to give the land back. That doesn't mean that they're going to go on a boat and you're going to leave the continent, but give the rights to the land to the people who are the stewards of the land. I think we need to talk more and hear the stories of all those children who are found right now in the graves. There's a story behind that, and the church has a big part on that. By the way, I grew up in a nunnery I grew up in a convent. And so I used to be a Catholic person. I'm a recovering Catholic right now. And all the things that are happening to Indigenous people, it happened to us over there too. Like when I went to school, they cut my hair. I used to speak a little bit of my Indian grandmother's language, and they told me that that was Satan's language, that I was evil. On top of that, I was left-handed. So I was totally, I grew up believing that I was ugly, stupid, and I should be dead. That's what the nuns told me. So, and that is to give you a sample that the church has a big role in the genocide of indigenous people all over the world, like it happened in Latin America, and we haven't even started talking about it. Because some people tell me, you always talk about that. Yeah, because they need to be said. Those are stories that need to have a voice. Those are people who need to be remembered. And also the violence, the violence against women here, the missing and murdered indigenous women and the spirit people. We need to find them. We need to know why and where are they. And it's not something that is nice. But in order to get to the truth, we need to do that. Now, my question is, the government talk, truth and reconciliation. What is it to reconcile when we were never in a good marriage with the system? I don't think that we need to reconcile. They need to recognize that they committed genocide, they stole the lands, and they keep on doing it. Children keep on being taken from their moms and their families. Yeah, that's one first step, and all the resources that now they're trying to sell and buy, the water. It is a lot of things that Canada needs to be accountable and responsible. Then we can start seeing how we're gonna talk. Those are difficult conversations, but they need to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this last question then, yeah, is there like a specific one call to action that you have for Canadians?
I think we have to. I'm considered settler, but I'm not. I'm like your grandma from the South that refused to leave, and that's what I consider myself. But for settlers, though, we need to be what some people call allies, but I don't like the word ally. I like co-conspirator. So the support that Indigenous people need, we need to be there. We need to be beside them and use your white privilege in a good way, like a whole space for the people and the people of color here in Canada who don't have the voices. That's something that people in general in Canada we need to start doing. There's no other way that doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you have any, I don't know, I guess you would say like words of advice for all of us here?
In some circles and some people they have told me that sometimes what I say is really kind of aggressive, but really I believe in crashing the system because it's not working. The matrix that we all are involved in functioning with the system is working for them, not for us. And revolution doesn't mean that we're gonna go kill people and do this and do that. Revolution means change. It means that we need to change, and there are other ways to change us. We need to learn how to look at each other and be in a healthy relationship. We've been colonized too long, and sometimes we don't know other ways of communicating, other ways of connecting, but using our power over, because we all have power. But the problem comes when you use the power over. And for young people, though, We always said, oh, you're our future, you're our hope, and this and that. But they need our support too from us. They can't do it alone. There's not one particular group of people who will do it. We all need to be together. And let's not put all the weight on young people. We, the older people, and I mean not older than me, like me, the other adults, we need to support the young people. We need to, they know, they're really smart. They know what to do. They know what they want. And it's been a disconnect there. That the experiences that we had as older people are not related. And see, and then in old times, it was that the children were raised by the grandmothers. So the grandmothers will teach all the things to the children. And we're also separated, especially us who comes from another country in here. We don't have that extended family. So the kids grow isolated and they receive all the teachings from the colonialized society. And we need to start seeing the value of everybody. Doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter your gender, because we all have a role in this society.